Okay, we're at war with Iran, finally. Yippee. Today, the Secretary of Defense confirmed that Iran's terrorist regime is actively working towards a nuclear weapon. For the sake of our national security, the security of our allies, and millions of civilians in the region, this cannot be allowed to happen. Can we just let, like, one thing happen at a time? U.S. evacuating personnel from the Middle East amid growing tensions with Iran. Okay, so are we giving Israel the go-ahead to bomb them? Did somebody have a talking to with Trump, or possibly the people actually in charge of the administration? They were like, listen, okay, you need us. They're evacuating from Iraq as well. Iraq as well? Ooh, okay. Israel's gonna deploy the Samson option. Jesus Christ. Israeli officials have said the IDF have been on extremely high alert in recent days for possible escalation with Iran. The evacuations were announced 3 days after Trump held a meeting on Iran with his top national security team at Camp David. He got a talking to. He got a talking to. They were like, listen, we know the Muslims gave you a cool plane. However, it's really important to the military-industrial complex and to Palantir that we continue using the Middle East as a testing ground for our new toys. I don't know. This one seems pretty bad. Evacuating from Baghdad. U.S. can't do a conventional war with Iran. No, not us. We would just, like, provide support to Israel. I mean, what he said is obviously correct. Iran's been working towards nuclear weapons for a long time. Oh my God. I can't believe it. They actually did. They actually had a talking to with Trump. They really did sit him down and had the conversation. Yeah, the Muslims gave you a big plane, but we need to support Israel forever and ever and ever, no matter what, until we die. When has Trump ever said this about anything? This is about a deal that he's been bragging about making for months now. I don't know, Trump told the Pod Force One podcast on Monday when asked if he thought he could get Iran to agree to shut down its nuclear program. I don't know. I did think so, and I'm getting more and more less confident about it. When does he ever talk like that? Serious question. Think of how many times he's ever said, yeah, I don't know about getting a deal with this one. I don't know. They gave him a talking to. No one knew healthcare could be so complicated. Well, that was probably also when he had a conversation with the people around him, and they were like, yeah, we're not doing this, actually. Dude, I feel like the Israel shit's been ramping up lately. Tulsi just put out a weird nuke war video that I believe was made for Trump. Oh, yeah, I saw this one. No, this was about Russia, though, not Iran. New, the U.S. ordered all embassies in striking distance to convene emergency action committees, send cables back to D.C. about what measures they're taking to mitigate risks. That led to today's departure for Iraq. Risks for what? The pizza index is spiking. Guys, anytime you see these photos, they're old. They're old photos. I've been seeing it's the same photos every time, no matter how many times they update Google Maps and slightly change the format. These are probably from, like... Oh, actually, this one says from... I expected this to be older. 21st of January? Maybe this one's older? Dude, the MIC definitely tugged the leash on Trump. This is all coming, like, really quickly. Jesus Christ. War abroad would be the perfect accompaniment to the end of democracy at home. U.S. slams UN conference on Israel-Palestinian issue, warns of consequences. Okay. Trump's administration is discouraging governments around the world from even attending a UN conference next week on a possible two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians, according to a U.S. cable seen by Reuters. Even following the conference will be viewed as acting in opposition to U.S. foreign policy interests and could face diplomatic consequences from Washington. Increasingly unlikely, the sixth round of nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran will take place on Sunday in Oman as planned. Inside the MAGA versus Hawk battle to sway Trump on bombing Iran. This is from yesterday, though I suppose it's been quite prescient. What is Iran itself saying? That we're the devil? Presumably. Iran threatens to strike U.S. bases if conflict erupts over nuclear program. Iran's defense minister has said his country would target U.S. military bases in the region if conflict breaks out with the United States. During a private lunch with the president at the White House last Wednesday, conservative talk show host Mark Levin told Trump that Iran was days away from building a nuclear weapon, an argument Trump's own intelligence team has told the president is not accurate, according to an intelligence official as well as another Trump ally familiar with the matter. Levin urged Trump to allow the Israeli government to strike Iranian nuclear sites. You know who I envy? I envy the people of the future who, through a historical lens, will be able to untangle the Israeli-American relationship and make sense of it in a way that isn't always like massive JQ fodder. Because holy shit, it is insane how cucked we are to them. I know that it's all like corporate contracts, but like the extent to what, the constant non-stop deference to them and their interests, and it's this tiny little rogue state. Jesus Christ. Levin's been waging a private war against Trump's longtime friend and special envoy leading talks, Steve Witkoff, who also attended the meeting. Oh my God. Levin worked at, I'm just learning now. Levin worked in the administration of Ronald Reagan and was a chief of staff for AG Edwin Meese. That's great. Endorsed Ted Cruz in 2016 and declared himself never Trump. Great, great. Beginning with the start of Trump's first presidency, he became pro-Trump. Great, great. Classic. Dude, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Was it Hawley or Cooper that we saw the tweet of saying that Iran is close to building a nuclear weapon? It was Cotton? Okay. I had in my head that it was Hawley for a second, and I was like, Jesus Christ, of all the people. The, like, fake populist, you know? Hours after Levin's meeting with Trump, Tucker Carlson, who had clearly been alerted to the gathering by someone familiar with what happened, took to X to accuse Levin of trying to bully U.S. into war. There is zero credible intelligence that suggests Iran is anywhere near building a bomb or has plans to. None, Carlson tweeted. So why is Mark Levin once again hyperventilating about weapons of mass destruction? To distract you from the real goal, which is regime change. Young Americans heading back to the Middle East to topple yet another government. Man, being a Nazi really does let Tucker Carlson sneak himself into stuff that occasionally sounds like the correct version of an argument, doesn't it? Based? No, not based. We know Tucker Carlson's position on Israel has a lot to do with Jews and not very much to do with the immorality of regime change. U.S. condemns Canada allies over move to sanction two far-right Israeli ministers.
Is joining the UK in sanctioning two Israeli ministers. Itamar Ben-Gvir on the left and Bezalel Smotrich on the right have both been sanctioned over comments they made about Gaza. Canada and other Western nations have been putting added pressure on Israel over its actions in Gaza and had warned of concrete action in response to the humanitarian crisis. This news is just coming into the newsroom.
This is rough, man. Did Mark Levin just like win? Like Mark Levin just casually strode up to Trump, said, yeah, by the way, Iran's gonna nuke us tomorrow, left, and then Trump was like, okay. Other MAGA figures from Charlie Kirk to activist Jack Posobiec. Activist Jack Posobiec? I guess it's a pretty broad term. Have used their public profiles to bolster the case for diplomacy. Like Tucker Carlson, strong opinions on Jews, not so much on regime change.
Earlier this week, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency said Iran had not been cooperating with the organization and that the agency could not certify Iran's program as peaceful. Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International...
Why would Iran comply with the program? Isn't the point of Trump's deal to open up Iran to investigations so that they could make that, like, why would they comply with that right now?
Donald Trump has been asked about these negotiations quite a bit in the last few days. He told reporters at the White House on Monday this. I just want to play some sound.
They're just asking for things that you can't do. They seek enrichment. We can't have enrichment. We want...
Oh my, dude, I didn't hear this audio. When was the fifth talk between Iran? When was the fifth talk? That was a little while ago, right? So just now Trump is saying they're asking for things we can't do? I can't believe it. The deep state handlers got to him. That's so explicit. The talk was that long ago, but only now suddenly he's like, no, it's not possible, actually. He's so God, man. I mean, Biden probably would have done the same thing.
Want just the opposite. And so far, they're not there. I hate to say that because the alternative is a very, very dire one, but they're not there.
We can't have enrichment. Those words from Donald Trump. Do you agree with President Trump that Iran should not be allowed to enrich uranium at all?
It's not for me to agree or disagree with the negotiating position of the president. I think the president has done something very, very important in reaching out to Iran. This is very, very important because there was no diplomatic platform. There were no conversations.
It was just last week or 2 weeks ago that he tried to do a side deal to allow enrichment. Even Schumer made that shit video on it. Oh, that's true. The side deal that Schumer made that video on, the Taco Trump video, was in response. Yeah, it was in response to Trump like trying to negotiate a side deal to allow for partial enrichment, right? It's a phenomenal time to be a conspiracy theorist, and the crazy thing is that Alex Jones is with the regime. Like, if you like, Alex Jones is out there with like the Soylent, you know, pay no attention, don't question Donald Trump. Military industrial complex wants us to invade Iran. Better sign up. You love America, don't you? But like, but this is like the best time to be conspiratorial, dude. It's crazy. Trump doesn't have the mental faculties to like do the song and dance you would normally have to do to make it seem like you're not having your strings pulled, you know?
Between Iran and the United States, and while this was happening, Iran.
No, I agree that the tie is wretched. There's no dimple. It's loosely tied. It's asymmetrical. The tie is wretched. I was only talking about the cut of the jacket.
Continued enriching uranium at very, very high levels, at 60% of uranium, one uranium isotope, which is very, very close.
Trump's just repeating whatever he's told to say right now, it sounds like. Yeah, but you have to understand, Trump has been pushing for diplomatic negotiations with Iran for months. He has been snubbing Israel for months. He has been deepening ties with countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the UAE for months. And then after all of that, out of nowhere, with no prior prompting, for him to go, oh, actually, the deal guy, I can't do this deal. I don't know. I don't think it's possible. In fact, no need to even show up to the sixth meeting. Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, sorry. We're going to have to die for Israel, actually. Like, yeah, it's just so transparent, you know? This is actually a huge deal. Like, legitimately, they full on just got Trump at Camp David. And they said, listen, dog, it's been real. I'm glad you got that plane. We're pledging allegiance to Israel, okay? We're all dying for Israel. There's no way around it. And Trump was like, okay. Like, that's where we are at right now. Please look at this. I lost my mind when I saw this. In line with the government's new push.
After the October 7th
Why is it so quiet?
anniversary, that horrific day, the anniversary of October 7th, after that, they added new drinks to the menu. One was Sweet Sinwar, in honor, a tribute to the leader of Hamas, who tortured Jews, who orchestrated the October 7th attacks. That's the world in which we're living, that they do a drink honoring him, and can't do that. And so we've sued them. And we're going to stop this from happening. And anywhere in the country, if you do this, we're coming after you. Cannot do this.
I mean,
this is insane. It sounds funny, but it's actually horrifying. The Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit because they had joke menu items referencing terrorists. For Israel. Of course it's for Israel. Obviously it's for Israel. Isn't it kind of a free speech violation? It doesn't matter. Fighting this in court is going to bankrupt that business. This is like, genuinely, it is so over. Listen, this is a degree of clownish Israel worship that I would have like accused people of being hyperbolic for suggesting just a few months ago. Pam Bondi just like, oh, can we argue that you're being glib about Israel in like the branding of your business? We're gonna sue you. Sorry, actually, U.S. citizenship test from now on. Just recite the Israeli national anthem. It's bad. Worse than freedom fries. It would be like if the government sued people for calling them French fries, which they didn't do. This would be like the DOJ suing somebody because they named a drink the Gin Laden or something. It's insane. Yeah, no, it's. Do you think they had like an all hands on deck meeting where you know, Miller was like between clenched teeth? Okay, so in addition to the whole MAGA thing, we also worship Israel. Everyone, you're going to have to do 5 pro-Israeli things this week, and we'll report back on Sunday. Okay? Okay. And then Pam Bondi, like, this is the best she could come up with. Do you think she Googled, like, in quotes, you know, a bunch of Palestinian or Hamas leaders and just saw anything pop up, anything domestically, and just decided to run with it? Israel worship is kind of central to evangelical end timesism. Yeah, but that's not, like, the reason why they're doing this, okay? This shit right here is not to appeal to evangelicals, okay? I promise you. This is deep state shit. Bondi says one thing, but the DOJ says they refuse to serve Jewish people. Yeah, that's because Bondi is the one who was given the order to find something to do that looks pro-Israel, and the DOJ is the one that had to actually file the lawsuit. Obviously, the DOJ's lawsuit can't say, they made a reference to a terrorist in a drink, so, yeah, basically, like, they should die. They can't do that. So instead, they have to say this. Is there any evidence of it? I don't know. But in order for me to believe them, I would have to trust the DOJ right now. So I'm just going to assume there's no evidence of this. Maybe they chased out, like, Israeli customers or something. Specifically, the lawsuit alleges that on 2 separate occasions, Harara ordered Jewish customers, identified because they were wearing baseball caps with the Stars of David on them, to leave the coffee house. During one incident, an employee told a Jewish customer who was trying to make a purchase, "You're the guy with the hat, you're the Jew, you're the Zionist. We don't want you in our coffee shop. Get out." During another incident. That'd be bad. I just don't trust the DOJ. Prove it in court. Also, even like, even if the owners of this coffee shop or whatever the fuck it was were bigoted, the idea of like this being a civil lawsuit in all cases, unless it's anti-Israeli, in which case the DOJ will sue, that's psychotic. Anyway, looking forward to dying in the mountain ranges around Tehran. Doesn't the gay cake suit make this legal? No, different thing. Different case. I live in Oakland, and there's 2 things about this cafe thing. The guy who's alleging discrimination is literally a Zionist provocateur who has gone and harassed Palestinian activists before. As a general rule, like, you can just doubt anything the DOJ or any Zionist or any person who is in any capacity defending Israel says. Seriously, like, it'll lead you in the correct path pretty much every damn time. You looking forward to watching Alex Jones, like, sweatily tweet out defenses of Trump when he starts drafting people to go to Iran? It's crazy that as soon as Trump took office a second time, even though Alex Jones had been critical of Trump before, he was like, and he just fully committed to being a regime slob, you know? How is he still relevant? He's not so much relevant as he used to be, but he's obviously always been, like, a grifter. So it's not like his beliefs changed or whatever, you know? Pentagon chief authorizes voluntary departure from military dependents from Middle East. When was this put out? Yeah, we know they're evacuating the Baghdad embassy. Voluntary departure of military dependents from locations across the Middle East. Families of soldiers? Dude, are we really invading Iran? This is so soy, dude. That's the best way for the regime to fall, though. You're right. Maybe this can be our Vietnam. No, you would know if they were. There'd be months of massive buildup of forces in the region. First of all, that would only apply if we were competent, which we're not anymore. Second of all, in addition, I don't think it would literally be us invading Iran. It would be continued strikes in Iran from Israel, and we would be providing Israel arms. Probably not boots on the ground, at least not at first. In which case, we wouldn't need to put ourselves out there. U.S. CENTCOM chief postpones Senate testimony due to Middle East tensions, officials say. That actually does seem pretty bad. Satellite photo shows U.S. fighters and bombers at key base for Iran. New satellite imagery, how recent is this? This is from today. Reveals a significant concentration of U.S. military aircraft and bombers on the island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, including strategic B-52 KC-135. How long have they been here? Military deployment at the Diego Garcia Air Base increased since March amid rising tensions with Iran. Without knowing how recent of a buildup there has been, I don't really know how meaningful this information is specifically. This is basically a neocon coup, right? No. The MAGA types were always lying about being anti-war. They were always lying. Fascist governments start wars. That's one of the things they do. They always do this. Trump has leaned on the, like, isolationist we want peace angle because it got him applause through the elections, but there's no real commitment to that. U.S. intel officials concerned Israel may strike Iran without U.S. consent. Yeah, we saw this earlier, but, like, the intelligence community and the military community are not necessarily the same, right? Our regular Venture is in Iran. Venture, are you affiliated with the Iranian uranium enrichment process at all? Like their program? They have to wait for the signal to get down into the concrete bunker. All right, well, if they answer yes, ban them. Don't need Pam Bondi coming after me. Counter-drone weapons diverted from Ukraine to Middle East amid rising tensions, Hegseth confirms. This is also from today? Oh, dude, are they gonna invade, like, on the day of the parade? What the is going on here? Holy shit. This is such a whiplash. Stop chatting about me. I'm not watching the stream. Is that because you're too busy enriching uranium, Venture? Ask Venture if they are enriching uranium right now. At least 5 USAF B-2 Spirits and 7 C-17A Globemaster 3s have arrived over the last 3 days or are currently en route to the island. Netanyahu's government is on the edge of collapsing, so the war has to be soon or he might get ousted. I don't really think it's about protecting Netanyahu necessarily. He's been teetering on the brink for quite a while. I think we were getting dangerously close to a peace deal with them. The United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operation, which monitors maritime security issues, also reacted on June 11th to the increased tensions in the region. Iran threatened targets. Non-compliance resolution. Do you think Trump has been pressing for peace deal just for optics, knowing this was coming? No, I genuinely think that the deep state had a talk with him. He had a meeting 3 days ago at Camp David, and it's been since then that all of this pessimism happened. Before the 3 days ago point, pretty optimistic about the peace deal, making deals. He was even making side deals with them, you know? Bro, my VPN is very slow. Don't make fun of me yet. Venture is not beating the can't connect quickly because under 100 feet of concrete bunker allegations. Didn't expect this to be such a prolonged bit, but you know. Yeah, I think that the deep state sat Trump down. They already admitted to uranium enrichment. Well, yeah, of course. Of course they've enriched uranium. That wasn't in question. That was already known. The question was, have they enriched it to weapons grade uranium? How quickly they could do that, how far away they were from doing that, you know? Israel poised to launch operation on Iran, sources say. What sources? U.S. officials have been told Israel is fully ready to launch an operation in Iran. This might literally happen within the next, 48 hours.
We're following breaking news. U.S. officials familiar with the situation tell CBS News that Israel is fully ready to launch operations into Iran. They say this is part of the reason some Americans were advised to leave that region. The U.S. is anticipating Iran could retaliate on certain American sites in Iraq. Israeli officials and White House spokespeople declined to comment on this. President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, is still planning to meet with Iran for a 6th round of talks on the country's nuclear program in the coming days. We're going to stay on top of this breaking news story. And time for a segment from our CBS.
We discussed a lot of things, and it went very well, very smooth. We'll see what happens. You know, we're trying to do something with a country we just spoke about, Iran. They are good negotiators, but they're tough. Sometimes they can be too tough. That's the problem.
I think we got the right person to do it.
So we're trying to make a deal so that there's no destruction and death. We have a meeting with Iran on Thursday, so we're going to wait till Thursday. They don't want to give up what they have to give up. You know what that is. They see.
Are we genuinely playing both sides? No. Trump has been pushing for no war for several reasons. One, it gets him applause. And two, he doesn't like Israel. Or at least he feels about Israel the way a normal person would, I think, which is that his interactions with them have revealed them to be kind of like pushy and needy, and they're just, you know, Netanyahu's unlikable. So, okay. And he hasn't favored them for that reason. But he has broken with what has historically been like a basically limitless commitment to support from us to them. And I think that the powers that be have been worried that we might actually announce some kind of deal with Iran. And they sat Trump down and they just said essentially like, well, this can't happen. He's very easy to, you know, influence. Breaking from less than an hour ago. Breaking: U.S. and Iran not expected to have further nuclear negotiations. So they're not even going to do the 6th talk. Yeah, they're not even going to do the 6th talk. Insane. All of this happened out of nowhere. All of this was after that Camp David meeting. How did Obama get away with an Iran deal then? Well, I think there are a few things. For one, ISIS was still an issue back then, so I think you could reasonably argue there was a lot of instability in the region that could be managed and dealt with and responded to, even without, like, an outbreak of war between Israel and Iran. For two, Obama did get a lot of blowback for that, like a huge amount of pushback for that. And for three, Republicans are just more willing to kill people. It just boils down to being as simple as that, right? Like, the right now, the current Trump cabinet is like completely no holds barred in their willingness to see death and destruction. Whereas with the Obama administration, which was awful, by the way, I think that like it was possible for there to be cooler heads saying like, okay, we can support Israel, but we don't need to go that far. There's no moderation. It's true, Obama was less subservient to Israel than both his predecessors and the people who followed. They don't want to build power plants, they want bombs to kill people. Iran has a right to build nuclear weapons. They get threatened like every hour of every day. We have nukes. We're crazy. Israel has nukes. They're actually crazier than we are. But I think that Iran is capable of diplomatically negotiating the situation down and not engaging in nuclear proliferation. Western intelligence officials believe Tehran is using the time afforded by ongoing negotiations to make alterations to its nuclear sites that would reduce the effectiveness of any future military strike. Based on what? Iran has been building and reinforcing these enrichment sites for decades. You really think the extra weeks in the negotiations are them like, oh, maybe we should have added more concrete? Like, it's possible, but surely, like, they've been reinforcing these facilities for a long time. This has been going on for decades and decades. Oh, no. The deceitful Iranian is trying to buy time so that he can add 1 extra % of defensive layering to the facility that they've been building for decades. So if Israel does strike Iran, what does that mean for the world? We would be committing support to Israel. Iran would retaliate and fire drones and missiles at U.S. bases and at Israel. If it's a real strike, like not just a pithy little, oh, they do 1 bomb or whatever, but they begin a campaign. Well, I mean, here in the United States, you'll probably be arrested if you speak out against it. I can tell you that much. Would civilian city strikes happen? Israel only wants to kill civilians. What do you mean? Dude, IDF doesn't get their dick hard to killing enemy soldiers. Of course they would go after civilians. Correct me if I'm overstating, but if Israel attacks Iran, the entire region's going to be at war again, right? Not necessarily. Syria's holding themselves down. I mean, maybe Yemen and Libya, Iran, but no, the Gulf states wouldn't attack Israel over this. They've been kind of hunkered down this for a while. Also, Saudi Arabia and Iran hate each other. My main thought, I guess, is like, look at how hard the Trump administration is overcommitting to these tiny little protests in Los Angeles. Oh, the protests they instigated. I feel like the regime might do with any instability in the Middle East what, previously we did with Vietnam, which is, use it to galvanize, use it to draw lines in the sand, culture war. And the Democrats would take their side too. Get videos from Schumer. I don't agree with Donald Trump on much, but I don't think Saudi Arabia and Iran hate each other more than they hate Israel, but life can always pull a funzie on you. No. Well, what they hate doesn't really matter. What Saudi Arabia wants is money. And being on good terms with America is way more lucrative than being on good terms with Iran and Russia. Especially because they'll never be on good terms with Iran for, a wide variety of reasons. So they would be losing so much for nothing.